G'day, Nigel here from Sax School. Today's tip is all about fingers. And what I really want to talk to you about is keeping your fingers super close to the keys. Now, it doesn't really matter what style of music you're playing. I'm working on some classical etudes today, but you could be playing jazz, pop, any style of playing, it doesn't really matter. You still want to keep your fingers as close to the keys as possible. Now, I know when I'm doing the Sax School lessons, I've got my fingers way off like this, really just so you can see clearly which key I'm pressing down. But when we're playing our saxophone, it's so important that you keep your fingers really close to the keys. I always think about it, I mean, I'm a bloke, right? So I always think about it like a car engine. If you've got a banger, an old banger of a car, it's really noisy, the engine's really noisy, and that's because all the bits inside the engine are flopping about. Whereas if you had, if you look at a very far, like a Ferrari or a Formula One car, something like that, the engines sound completely different. They're very smooth, and that's because all the parts inside the engine are perfectly in line with each other, and there's no extra movement in there whatsoever. And that's what your fingers need to be. Now, by keeping your fingers on the keys at all times, we're making our technique a lot more efficient and also quieter. None of this sort of flappy round stuff, but also your fingers can move fast and efficient, and that's really what we're aiming for. So, how do we work on this? Right, first of all, what I want you to think about doing is actually physically touching the keys at all times. So your fingers need to be on the keys at all times, okay? Don't lift your fingers off. The way you practice it, two things. First of all, get yourself a mirror. Practice in front of a mirror so you can see what's actually happening with your fingers, because you'll be surprised. There'll be some random movements happening here and there that you weren't even aware of, but when you watch in a mirror you can see it. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, work on it when you're doing your warm-ups and your scales at the start of your practice session. That's when you're going to have the most time to actually think about it. So the best thing is to start with a really slow scale and actually force yourself to touch the keys at all times. Now, it's going to sound really weird, it's going to feel really weird at the start, but with a bit of persistence, bit of practice, before long you'll be more aware of your fingers, and over a period of time you'll get your fingers right down to those keys. So just the most important thing is being aware of it, being conscious of it, thinking about it a few minutes every day when you're doing your practice. Before you know it, you'll have Ferrari fingers. And that's what we're aiming for. Okay, I hope that helps. I hope it's not going to drive you crazy. I know when I first started thinking about that, it drove me absolutely crazy. But it really does help down the track. And particularly if you're going to start playing some more complicated music, then you need to have fast fingers. Okay? So keep practicing hard. Check the other lessons out at Sax School. I'll see you next time.